What's up guys, YST here and welcome back to another Raid Shadow Legends video. And today we are on the test server and we're going to be showcasing 6 new champions. And let me tell you from now, some of them are absolutely outstanding. So if you're excited, be sure to hit that like and subscribe button. And without further ado, let's break them down. So we're going to start with Acrizia. I don't know, I'm always terrible with these names guys, alright? But she is a Void Affinity Dwarf champion. And out of all of these champs we're about to read out, this is probably the one that's going to be wanted from a vast majority of players when they are summoning their shards. While on the A1, attacks one enemy and has a 45% chance of applying a 60% decreased defense for 2 turns. The damage of this skill increases by 10% every time this skill is used and stacks up to 100%. So when you think about the Demon Lord clan boss or any boss in general, this ability is going to perform really well, right? And I have playtested this one more than the rest of them today, so I know how hard she's going to be hitting, but I'll showcase that video sometime tomorrow. But yeah, based on enemy max HP, and attack, it's a whopper of a skill for sure. So on the A2, with Battlefield Domination, attacks all enemies 2 times, places a shield buff on this champion for 2 turns, and the value of this shield buff is equal to 5% of this champion's max HP for each critical hit. And once again guys, damage based on enemy max HP, and attack. And on the third ability with Shutdown, also based on enemy max HP, attacks one enemy 2 times and has an 80% chance of stealing 100% of the target's turn meter before attacking, making this really solid for Affinity neutral, of course being a Void champion as well. And this effect cannot be resisted if the target has higher max HP than this champion. Guys, all 3 of these abilities, if you're worried about damage multipliers and all of that weird stuff, every single one smacks like a truck, but not in the arena, alright? Because of the way that it scales with the enemy max HP, I did try it. There is some scenarios we could do some single target attacks, or, you know, like sometimes on maybe like a Duchess, you might see like 60,000 or 70,000. But her value for me comes into every single boss in this game. You talk about the Dark Fae, mitigating the turn meter. You talk about the increasing of damage with the max HP to scale off those abilities. When I was using her alongside like Royal Guards and Ninjas, she was outperforming them, combining their damage in my compositions, personally. Not to say that she's gonna like power creep them or anything like that. I'm just saying that she's amazing in her own right and she's worthy of being a Void Legendary champion. Just from playtesting on my behalf, but as I said, I've got a special collab coming out tomorrow to showcase this champion. Decrease the damage taken from AoE attacks, which is huge, because if you're trying to optimize your attack and some HP, you might not have the best defense, right? Especially when you're focusing on damage stats. And decreasing that damage taken from AoE, considering most of the bosses in this game are AoE attacks, she's going to be performing exceptionally well for you. So, really nice little passive there. And if a target's max HP is more than double this champion's max HP, i.e. the Demon Lord and stuff like that, this champion's attack will deal damage based on the target's max HP instead of this champion's attack. So just bear that in mind there with the Grandeur passive. But yeah, I don't really want to showcase the build yet because that's just kind of spoiling the video, right? But increased crit rate in all battles by 19%, and we have not got blessings on her as of now because, yeah, we just don't have blessings on her, alright? But hopefully I can do a guide on blessings in the near future. Next up is going to be Dracomorph V2. So we started off with Drake, we then got Dracomorph, and now we got the stoutest Dragonbane, who kind of slayed maybe a Dracomorph in the spider's lair, stole his helmet and slapped it on his own head. Or he's just a fanboy, who knows? But he looks absolutely outstanding, guys. He's like kind of like a Stag Knight slash Dracomorph. But let's break down his kit. So with Axe of Glory, attacks one enemy 2 times, and if the target is under any debuff, each hit decreases the target's turn meter by 10%. It's decent, it's a relatively nice A1, and of course 2 times with decreasing the turn meter. It's nice, but the only thing I would say is there's no buffing chances. So in terms of book values, from first glance anyway, I've not played with this champion yet. depending on the damage, it could be a decent A1 there. Now, on the Drake Hunter tactics, attacks all enemies 2 times, and each hit has a 50% chance of placing a stun debuff for 1 turn. Now, one thing worth mentioning is this champion is based on defense, and from what I've seen anyway, I believe that this A2 can hit really hard. I don't think it's to the extent of maybe a Solus or something like that. But I'm seeing some decent numbers is what I would say, but I don't really want to throw it out there as this is the best ability in the game as of now. But having that stun in there is really nice for utility, and if you can always have a skill where damage clashes with CC, it's just a plus, right? Being able to carry this into maybe the Doom Tower or Arena, and if you don't manage to one-shot, there's that chance of placing that crowd control on your oppositions. And that's on a 3-turn cooldown, so that's really nice. At a 65% chance for the stun is decent. On the Dragonheart ability though, places a 60% increased defense buff on this champion for 3 turns and then attacks all enemies. Has a 75% chance of placing a 25% decreased crit damage, which I'm not a fan of in this game, but it is what it is. And then a 75% chance of placing a 30% decreased speed debuff for 2 turns on enemies whose attack is equal to or lower than their defense. So it's kind of a play on stats on the opposition. Is the attack higher than their defense? Is the attack equal to or lower? And it's kind of, you get this if you got that, and then you get this if you got that. So you guys let me know. Are you a fan of this? For me personally, I'm not too sure. But the passive here is quite interesting with the Untarnished, because whenever an enemy attempts to place a weaken debuff, a decreased defense debuff or a poison on this champion reflects them back to the attacker. And the damage increases by 5% for each debuff on the target. I don't know. It's a kind of a weird one for me, because this part here, depending on the scenario, depending on the boss, or depending how you're using this, there's not many scenarios where drop defense and weaken goes out. Maybe the Doom Tower. I don't know. You guys let me know. Where do you think this will kind of happen the most? Drop defense and weaken. Of course, if they're using a Lydia, they'll be able to strip it off yourself. But in PvP for me, you want to be using full cleansers, not kind of a selfish one, right? Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of a tricky one, but it's interesting. And I do like interesting champions. I'll be having fun with this behind the scenes anyway. But the aura, really, really solid with defense in all battles by 30%. Very similar to our beloved Ultimate Death Knight, of course. But yeah, that's champion number 2, guys. Really interesting, I would say. But so far, the Acrisia, it's nuts. I'm telling you guys, it's nuts. It's bonkers. All right, where's the next one? Forgive me if I can't find it. All right, guys, just 2 champions today. All right. The thing is, I clicked the red dots on my index, so now I can't remember their factions. So I kind of have to use it like this. All right, so number 3, we've got Scrank. Really interesting, like monkey. Looks like something out of Wizard of Oz. But Flitter in Chaos attacks one enemy, has a 40% chance of applying a weakened debuff for 2 turns, and this chance increases to 75% if the target is under a HP burn. From first glance, of course, well, he does have some other stuff in his kit, which is really nice. But yeah, he places a weaken if they're under HP burn, and if you're trying to coincide that with maybe a drop defense champion, could be a nice little synergy there, I guess. On the A2 with Sup on Blood, attacks one enemy 2 times and heals this champion by 15% of their max HP on each critical hit, and then places a 50% increased attack buff on this champion for 2 turns if the target is under a HP burn debuff. So yeah, I kind of want to talk about the A3 first. So with the Unleash Havoc, attacks all enemies and has a 100% chance once booked of applying a HP burn debuff on all enemies for 2 turns, and also fills this champion by 15% on each critical hit. So for me, the value for an epic champion will be having a Void, epic, AoE HP burn champion to be universally used, whether that be the Doom Tower, the Spider's Lair. This ability is going to shine if you manage to pull him and you don't have other AoE HP burn options at 100%. But he does have this other weird utility where he's placing increased attacks and healing and weakens. I'm just trying to think, can he deal damage? Because they're kind of pushing us to do critical hits here. So could it be a play on HP burn slash nuking? With a Doom Tower maybe? I'm not too sure. But I'm seeing a lot of things here that's kind of leading towards that. And on the Pyromania, increases this champion's attack and crit damage every time a HP burn debuff triggers on an enemy. Stacks up to 25%. Maybe even a Hydra boss. I'm not too sure, guys, but for me, Spider's Lair is what kind of stands out with his AoE HP burn ability. Next up is going to be Daren. He looks really solid. Kind of reminds me of a champion that's already in the game. That's a legendary. Can't recall his name, but they look really similar, especially with their weapons and stuff. But he looks nice. I like it. So on his A1 ability with Brutal Razors, attacks one enemy 2 times. Each hit has a 20% chance of placing a freeze debuff for 1 turn. This chance will increase to 30% on each critical hit. So a nice little freeze on the A1. I'm actually not like sad with that whatsoever. This is an epic champion, he's attacking twice, and he's applying a decent debuff there. But when it comes round to this bit here, and I'm really anxious to see how hard will this hit, because for an epic champion, guys, this could be a potential to be one of the best ones in the game, depending on damage multipliers here. So attacks all enemies, will ignore 15% of each target's defense, and also fills this champion's turn meter by 10% on each critical hit. This is an outstanding ability, and depending on how hard this dude is hitting, I think he's going to be one that people are going to want, and maybe even better than Genbo. But we're going to have to wait and see here. With him being that Force Affinity, there will be scenarios where you might want to one-shot a Duchess or something and get a weak hit, but as it stands, this is a really nice nuking ability, guys, if it works out in that way. And on the Royal Assassin, attacks one enemy and ignores 50% of the target's defense and places a perfect veil buff on this champion for 2 turns if the attack is critical. Guys, if you consider Savage Sets, Helm Smasher, alongside Royal Assassin, that is 100% ignore defense if it procs on the Helm Smasher. That is, for an epic champion, guys, considering he's got 2 really strong things here, both ignoring defense to pair with your Savage Sets, I think he's got the potential to be one of the best nukers in the game, especially in the epic category. With that crit rate aura as well, 15%. Let me know what you think about Daren. I think he's absolutely insane. From first glance anyway. And alright then, so next up is going to be Franak, another epic champion, who's attack based from the Knight's Revenant. And I really love the aesthetics here. Kind of got a Cornelia vibe heading down here. Yeah, I really like it. But in terms of abilities, guys, with the Carve Through, attacks 1 enemies, drop defense, 50% attack. And next up here, we have got Franak from the Knight's Revenant. Once again, aesthetic-wise, the art team never fail to make really cool champions. And could be a lover for Faceless, because both of them, no face, no case, pretty much. But yeah, epic attack champion, and with the A1 ability, attacks 1 enemy, has a 40% chance of placing a 50% decreased attack debuff for 2 turns. Now, decreased attack on the A1 is something I'm always a fan of in this game, and universally used for a vast majority of players. On the A2 with Tender Mercies, attacks 1 enemy again, and inflicts 100% more damage against targets without any buffs. Now, for me, this really can stand out in the Demon Lord, because when you're facing him and he's got no buffs, unless he's got that increased attack on, and you got no way to strip it, let's just say the Void Affinity, there's potential here to deal some really nice damage on this A2 ability. And on the A3, attacks 1 enemy 3 times. Each hit has a 50% chance of stealing a 1 random buff. And then places a block buff debuff for 2 turns if the target has no buffs after this attack. Yeah, I don't know, it's really odd for me, because it says decreased attack, I'm thinking clan boss, but then when you're in unkillable setting, you don't need decreased attack because you're unkillable. So, but then she's dealing this extra damage if they don't have buffs, but then she's got the block buffs. I don't know, if you guys can kind of see where this might be used by a vast majority of players, you guys let me know, but from first glance, maybe a bit of Hydra stuff and some Demon Lord, or I don't know, unless you strip somebody with like a Madame Ceres and she can nuke really hard on a single target in the arena potentially. I don't know, we're gonna have to wait and see on this one. I'm kind of on the fence of it. And the final champion, I'm just going to talk about briefly, but check out yesterday's video if you want to hear my proper first glance. But it's going to be the mighty Uuko, and if you guys did not know, this is going to be the Fusion champion starting this Friday, September 9th. And he's a remarkable champion, and in my opinion, if you have the resources, don't be that guy that doesn't get him and regrets it later, because I think he's one of the best fusions to come out, period. Maybe top 5 of all time, in my opinion anyway. But yeah, decreased attack on the A1 on an AoE, really universally used, guys. For any player, it's outstanding. And opens up stuff like taunting and sleep sets or freeze sets, whatever you're doing, I don't know. Uuko's Fury attacks all enemies 2 times. Each hit has a 75% chance to remove 2 random buffs from the target. Then also places a block buff, debuff, and decreased accuracy debuff for 2 turns on the targets that have no buffs after the attack. Now, in the video I did breakdown of this fusion, I actually read it a little bit wrong, and it's a potential to remove 4 random buffs, not just 2, because it's on each hit. So that for me, removing 4 buffs, before an attack and then a block buffs as well, guys, this is a remarkable skill. And if you think about not even just the Hydra boss, where I think it's going to be amazing, think about the arena. If you have something like usually a Madame Ceres or whatever, you're not usually removing 4 buffs, right? With a Madame Ceres, usually removing like 1 or 2 or 3. But if you use it in this role and place a block buffs on them instead, this could be, there's really good scenarios where this can become really solid, guys. So yeah, I'm a big fan of this ability and could be used in a lot of places. But also, the reviving on the A2, but I did mention, I'm not a huge fan of the clash of good abilities here, because you've got increased speed, block damage on revive, and it's that clash very similar to a Uuko, where if you use your increased speed a turn before and then someone dies, you got to wait for this turn to recycle again to get the revive off. So yeah, but apart from that, 2 really crucial things, and I'm a fan of it. And then, but the main thing comes from the passive here, which what makes them outstanding for me. 50% chance of stealing 1 random buff from an enemy each time they receive a buff. Any stolen buffs become protected. You guys, you know how mad this is. This is insane, alright? I know it's just 50-50 and it's not consistent, but 50 is still really high, and to have a protected buff every time when that enemy time they receive a buff with no cooldown, that is, I think is insane for a passive, for sure. And Aura, increase ally speed by 20% in all battles. It's really solid. But yeah, guys, that is going to be all for the video. If you did enjoy it, be sure to hit that like and subscribe button. A bit of a rush one this morning, I apologize, but I just was a bit late to get the video out. It's my my daughter's first day back at school, and my second daughter's first day at nursery today. So I've kind of been busy trying to prepare for that, and yeah. I've got about 50 minutes to get this video out. Wish me luck. I'll catch you guys on the next one, and peace.